gonna be. No matter what comes our way, we'll be together.
Welcome to Homeschooling Down South. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Kat. We're two Southern homeschooling mamas sharing real talk, resources, and inspiration for life and learning in the Southeast.
Each week, we'll chat with inspiring voices in the homeschool community, highlight must-see nature spots and field trip gems, and share resources from across the region.
Whether you're new to homeschooling or a seasoned pro, pull up a chair and join us as we celebrate the joy, freedom, and community of homeschooling down south.
We'll laugh together, we'll learn together, find the joys in life together, give each other grace and space to
Welcome back to the
be.
podcast, everyone. We're so glad you're here. Today, we have Matthew Young from Read, Write, Create out of Marietta, Georgia here with us. Welcome to the podcast, Matthew.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we met you guys at the Southeast Homeschool Expo. Was
That's
this
right.
your first year at the expo, or is this something that you've done before?
Okay, so this was actually our second year. We went last year under a different brand, our other brand called Share Your Story. And so this is a long tale that we can go into, but we had started a new company called Read, Write, Create, and this was our first year under that brand. So
Okay.
second year here at the expo, but first year as Read, Write, Create.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We love it. We love attending, and it's always such good energy, and we love meeting folks and shaking hands and telling them about what we do and kind of showing them how passionate we are about
Yeah.
what we do. So it's been a joy to be able to do it a couple years now.
That's awesome. Okay, so what is it that you do? Tell everybody what Read, Write, Create is all about.
Well, if you could see me, you would see that I'm sitting in our film studio right now, which is in Marietta, Georgia. And that's what my brother and I are filmmakers. I say we're filmmakers, but at our core, we're artists. And that has taken forms in many different mediums. We just love to create stuff. And we always have ever since we were little, drawing pictures. I have to tell the story that we won a milk stacking contest. We were in second grade, I believe it was second grade. And we lived in Florida, outside of Tampa in Brandon, Florida. And there was a milk carton stacking competition, and we won. And we kind of won by default because the highest tower fell at the last minute. But
A win's a
we
win.
still won. Yeah. So we've been building stuff ever since we were little. And so out of college, we both went to the University of Georgia. And out of college, we started painting houses. We actually painted houses all through high school, through college, and then we started just a full-time painting business after college. And we did a lot of interior painting, a lot of just not new builds, but just people doing remodels. And we did that for the better part of a decade. But as we were doing that, we discovered film. And we always had that creative itch to make stuff and to just to build, to make, to create, whatever it was. And so film became that medium for us. And we started doing stuff at churches. We started actually doing live performances first. And we developed these characters called Bill and Charles Peterson. And we would do performances for the youth group. We were youth leaders at the time. And we would do performances for the kids. And we just fell in love with this kind of sketch alternate persona performance. And we said, well, let's just make a children's show out of it. So we got a studio, which is actually in the same building we're still in today.
Oh.
Geez, almost 20 years ago. At this point.
That's so cool.
And we built a set, never built a set before, never filmed anything to that capacity before, just taught ourselves, knew a couple people that kind of knew what they were doing. And we filmed a pilot for a show. It's called The Fantastic World of Charles Peterson. And it eventually just became The Fantastic World. We made a pilot, and then a church saw it, a different church, and they were like, will you make some curriculum for us? This was back in the time, way back in the day. Yeah, I had no idea what it was. I don't know if you remember this company called Orange. It's called Orange.
Yeah, it's
Not
still
Orange Theory.
around.
Not,
Our
not
church.
to be confused with Orange Theory, but Orange. Yeah, they make curriculum for like North Point and all
Yeah,
the.
they still do VBSs and stuff.
So they kind of had set the formula for what curriculum looked like at the time. A lot of churches wanted to model themselves after that. And so that was kind of the template we used. And so we wrote this curriculum. It was called Molly Pickens and the Rainy Day Castle. And it was based on our characters that we were doing. And it was an 8-part series. It was awesome. I mean, they were blown away with it. We really put everything we had into it. And that sort of launched us down this path of making children's media in the faith-based world. And so we sent that to a guy named Phil Vischer who created VeggieTales.
Oh my gosh,
And
yes.
yeah, I just out of the blue just sent it to him. He was starting a new company. This was just following the bankruptcy of
Yeah.
VeggieTales. I don't know if you knew this. And I just cold emailed him and I was like, "Hey, we're making stuff." And he emailed me back and he was like, "I love it. Like, do you want to make some content for my new company?"
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was like, "Yeah, I do. We do."
That's so
And
cool.
so, yeah, and so we made a few series for them, all with our Fantastic World character. It was like the dream for a creative person at that. I don't think
Yeah.
we knew how good we had it because they just wrote us a check and said, "Do whatever you want to do, and here's when we need it by."
Oh my
And it was just like a dream. And so we worked with them for a few years, made a bunch of stuff. It's funny, I tell the story that so at the time it was us, it was my brother and I, and then they hired these two other guys that were making music for them. And it was the My Mythic Morning guys on, I don't know if you know them. They're like the most popular YouTube channel on YouTube, like billions, like just immensely popular. And I always joke because they went on to become very rich and popular, and we just kind of went the other way. So it was us and them. Anyways, I digress. So we did that. And then we just started getting into more movie making, more commercials. We were doing more commercial stuff for businesses. And
Yeah.
we did some documentaries. We did a documentary called Quest of the Muscle Nerd, which is about bodybuilders that do cosplay. And you can see that on Tubi and Prime.
I love
And
it.
so, yeah, so film it was our medium for telling stories and being creative. And we've always done live action. We've always built sets. My brother is very talented at designing and building sets. And he's just a really talented designer in general. And it translates to branding and all that too. But so we've always just been hands-on, always loved creating. Right before the pandemic hit, we met a gentleman by the name of Stan Tucker who had a read and roll bus. And he was taking it around to schools, and kids could earn books through acts of kindness. He tells this story. He was a teacher, he was a second grade teacher, and the book fair came to town, and they were lining up for the book fair. And everyone was like, "Okay, get your money. We're going down to the book fair in the library." And this one kid came up to him, "Mr. Stan, I don't have any money. I can't get anything." And he was this particular child was did not have any money. He was too poor. It was a Title I school, and that broke Stan's heart. And he said, "Well, I'm going to make a reading roll bus where kids can just earn books through acts of kindness." So he was doing that all through the pandemic, and we met him and we filmed some. And then lo and behold, the pandemic hits,
Mm.
and he wants to keep doing what he's doing. His company, his nonprofit is called Leap for Literacy. And so he said, "Hey, you got a good persona. We could do like a little children's show for you." And so we built this little set, and it was called Stories with Stan at the time. And he just read books, and and brought some kids on. Out of that, this is where Share Your Story comes in. He develops the program called Share Your Story. And the
Okay.
whole mission of Share Your Story was to teach kids how to write their own books. And so his vision was to have this library filled with books written by kids. And to date, he's published over 200 kids' books through his program. And you should
Wow.
see them. They're all professionally illustrated. They're beautiful. And so we teamed up with him coming out of the pandemic to really formalize Share Your Story and to make it something bigger. And so we handled all the branding and did all the kind of the business side of it. And he's the face of it. And he travels around to schools and does all that. And that it was in that process that we kind of fell in love with the instructional side of writing and creating. And fell in love with creating materials that simplified the process and made it engaging for kids. That was the fun of it. That was the challenge, is to take something that was seemingly, for lack of a better term, boring
Yeah.
to a child, and how do you make it engaging and interesting? And then how do you make it easy for the instructor, whether it be a teacher or a parent? And so that was the fun kind of creative challenge for us. And it was through that process of doing all that that we also learned a lot on the side of the business side of it, of creating product, designing product, getting product manufactured, and going through an iterative process and this is all creative stuff for us, so we really enjoy it. And so it's through that we learned how to do all that stuff. And we said, well, we want to start focusing more on consumers, on families, on people in stores and retailers. And so Read, Write, Create, a long story short, Read, Write, Create was born out of Share Your Story, which was born out of the idea of making products, making materials that were inspirational to kids and to parents, and said, wow, I love that. I'm inspired to make something, I'm inspired to create something just simply because I like the way my notebook feels. I like the
Yeah.
way this feels in my hands. And then also making the curriculum side of it, making curriculum like I call my storyteller lab series, and it's a 3-part writing series where I teach kids how to make a character. We do our character creator, where I take them through the process of making a story character, giving it personality. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the character? What are they good at? What do they struggle with? Figuring out what that character looks like. What's the aesthetic? Is it a robot? Is it a human? And then what are that character's goals? What do they want to achieve? And what are the obstacles and problems getting in the way? And so we start with our character creator. And then I teach them our world builder, where we build a world for our character. What are the physics of that world? Who lives there? What are the politics of that world? What's the plant life? And then we do our storyteller, where I teach them story structure, where we take those elements that we built before, we put it to a simple story. And so the mission hasn't changed for us: to create materials that are easy and fun to use and inspiring when you touch them and when you hold them. And that's something you want to keep for a long time, or something you really are excited to give as a gift to somebody in your life. That's a very long story made long.
No, I love hearing it because I have to tell you this. I bought one of your kits, obviously, at the
Oh, yes.
expo, and it had what I have always referred to as a bear book inside of it. That's what
That is very,
yeah, that's what we called them when I was in school. I have the artistic ability of a sloth. All of my artistic expression comes out in the kitchen or doing like social media
that's
type,
great.
this type stuff. But my daughter is extremely artistic and she
Yeah.
wants to draw. She wants to build stories. I can't tell you how many pages of notebook paper we have where she's written stories.
Yeah.
And my mother kept my bear book from the 4th grade. It's my panic attack origin story because my teacher would not
Wow.
let me write a novel. She wanted me to illustrate it, but my mom kept it and my daughter now has it. And she had been saying, well, I want to write a book because we got these little gold stickers that went on the front that
Yeah.
like made it look all official. She's like, well, I want to do it. So when I came home and showed her her new kit, she was like, I get to write a story. And I was like, yes, not only do you get to write a story, but you're going to get to go sit under this person that
Yeah.
is not me and
Yeah.
actually learn how to do this. Because I talk a lot on my platform about outsourcing. How do
Yeah.
we teach our kids the things that we aren't super confident in? And that's not cheating when it comes to homeschooling. And Kat always likes to say, the thing with homeschooling is you choose who's teaching your child. You're in
Mm,
the driver's seat of that.
mm, yeah.
And so I'm super jazzed that we found you guys, and now, like, I'm gonna outsource this to you guys.
Well, no, that's great. Happy to. That's the point. I mean, that's happy to be there. And I love teaching. I love teaching. I'm not a teacher, but I love teaching. It's not like I was trained in teaching. My wife's a teacher, but I was not trained in that capacity. But I'm very passionate about what I do, and I love people. I love kids, and I love seeing their minds come to life. And so there's a joy in that process for me. And my teaching style is I just like to ask a lot of questions. I don't like to get up and I mean, I talk, but I don't like to just talk at. It's not like like a professor in a college auditorium or something, right? So that's why our classes are small. I want to be able to engage with the person, and I want to just ask them questions and pull out of them, kind of very similar to like a therapist would do or something. I'm just asking a lot of questions, and it's a discovery process for the student, for the child or adult or whoever it is they get to discover along the way. I do believe that all of this is in us in some capacity. It's just a matter of formalizing that process and figuring out how to communicate that in a way that is easy for everybody around us to understand. I will say I do. My wife, she's gets on me a little bit because I don't know if you've ever read the book Thinking Fast, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. I think that's what it's called. It's about just kind of two different ways we process. We process fast. The fast processors, people that are, I'm one of those. I'm like, oh yeah, I got an answer to that. Yeah, we can figure that out. And then my wife is slower processor, and she takes a day or two to figure out something. The difference is usually that second processor usually is right because they've spent so much time thinking about it, and when they come back to you, they've thought through it, and I can be wrong probably 50% of the time because I'm throwing so many darts. So she gets on to me because sometimes I'm like, hey, what do you guys? Let's brainstorm some ideas. And some of these kids, they need more time to process. They need to sit there with it. And so that's been the fun learning aspect for me. I'll say is that learning the different styles which kids and people how they learn and absorb information and how they process information and then how they want to put that back out. I'm learning to be more patient in my teaching style. I'm learning to be quiet, more, listen and let them think, because I'm like, well, you guys want to make a unicorn? You want to make a bear? You want to make a little kid? What do you want to do? What do you want to make? Now I try to just sit and let it flow and let them kind of process. Anyways, the whole point being is I'm learning how to be a teacher, learning through this process how to be a better teacher. I think that's important too. Is to always be. I just spit on my computer. It's always important to be, just listening and learning as well.
That's so
So
cool. And you're speaking to a bunch of homeschool parents who I feel like can all probably resonate with that to some
yeah.
degree of,
Mm.
most of us aren't trained, at least not in some aspect of what we're going to end up teaching our kids, but learning to just sit back and be learners alongside of
Yeah.
them. I also feel like you're going to win husband of the year by going on a podcast and saying your wife is always right. So
All right. It's
good
not
job.
always right.
Almost always right. But I'm curious now, Matthew, if we want to spark our kids' creativity, what's a really good question that we can ask to
Mm.
begin that process and then
Yeah.
be able to stand back?
Well, I think, and that's a great question. How do we, I think ideas come from all kinds of places. And one of the things Stan says is he always encourages kids to start from their own experiences, whether that's a sport that they play, a game they love, music, dance, something in their own life that they can draw from. So I think that's a pretty effective. I've always thought that was a pretty effective way. Stan's style tends to be more that grounded, literal, what's going on in your lifestyle. I tend to be more, for lack of a better term, made up, where the story is coming from the far reaches of our mind, and so that's another balance. I know I'm not directly answering your question, but that's another balance I'm figuring out too, is that some people are very literal in their thinking. I think that goes back to understanding who your child is,
Mhm.
and who you are. um, and they're very literal in their thinking, and they just want to write a story about their pet. They want to write a story about their brother or sister or their favorite tree they climb, whatever it is. And then some kids just want to write a story about a dragon. They
Yeah.
want to write a story, about a half frog, half horse. And you're like, well, I don't even understand. What is that? And you're like, I don't know. I made it up. And I think that there's not a right or a wrong to that. So the first thing, back to your question, I think the first thing is try to understand who your child is, how they think and how they process. And I think encouraging a lot of kids, I don't think fully know that anything goes in the
Mm.
creative process. That what do you mean I can make a horse frog character? It's like, yeah. I mean, you can make a character out of a lamp. You can make a character out of your shoes. Mr. Shoe can be a character. Anything goes. But I also have learned, I say all that to say, I also have learned that a box is very helpful for the creative process. So it can be very anxiety inducing to say, well, let's make, yeah, let's
That's
go
me.
make something. Hey, Kayla, go make a story. Go write a story. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Whereas I could say, here's what we're going to do. And that's kind of what my curriculum is. It takes kids through that process of narrowing it down and making a little bit of a box for them to work in. So we might start with prompts like, we're going to write a sports story. I want to write a sports story today. You can make up the sport, or it can be a sport that you play or that you've wanted to play. But let's do a story about a sport today, and then we might say, does that sport have a ball? Or do they use a ball, or is there something else in that? Now, what's that ball look like? So we can start a little bit more granular in our process. I think the big open-ended questions kind of tend to create that sense of dread and anxiety, and when we start to narrow it a little bit and we give them a little bit of a box to flourish in, I think that is actually really helpful to the creative process.
It kinda reminds me of the, like, sip and paint classes, where they're
Yeah.
like, "Anybody
Yeah.
can do it," and listen,
Mhm.
I'm gonna attest to that. Anybody can do it because your girl did
Yeah.
it, and I don't
Yeah. Good
have
for
any
you.
artistic ability, but it was that. She took us piece by piece. She didn't say, "We're going to paint the Eiffel Tower." She said,
Yeah.
"I want you to take your brush, dip it in yellow, and make this crescent shape."
Sure.
And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden you build this thing. So I totally see that. It is wildly overwhelming to look at it from a big picture standpoint, but I see how that could be so helpful to take it from like a molecular point, basically.
Yeah. We have these things that we're making called story stones, and our first 3 sets, our revised set should be in. And all they are is just like basic pictures on little felt coins. And like we have 3 different sets we're gonna have right now. We've got our animal set, we have what we call our starter set, and we have our sports and activities set. And so on those are settings, characters, and props or things. And the idea is that you could lay those out on a table or you can use the bag that they come in, and then a child can just pick those out. I call it a brainstorm in a bag. You can pick that out. And so we're going to tell a story about, reach your hand in, pick it out, our story is going to be about a house today. Okay. Well, let's see who lives in that house. Reach it in, pick it out. Oh, there's a horse that lives in this house. Okay. What does that horse really love to play with? Okay. So we're going to pick it out, find an object or whatever. So we're prompting them along that creative process. Um, and not leaving it open ended, but giving them enough of a starting point where they can flourish beyond that once they get so that's I mean our goal with those objects is to create prompts, to create ideas, so they're literally not starting from zero. They have somewhere to start. We do a film competition each year called the 48-hour film challenge, and some people might be familiar with this, but it's just a fun kind of contest. It's takes place over 48 hours over a weekend, and the way that it works is your team, you draw a genre. You're going to get a genre. So it could be comedy, it could be romance, it could be musical, it could be silent film. There's about a dozen different ones you could get. Buddy film is one of them. And then you get a line that you have to use in the film. You get a prop that you have to use in the film. You get a character name that you have to use in it. And for me, I love it because it's a box right out of the gates, and then I get to be super creative within that box, within the confines of that box. And I think that's a good example, kind of even go back to what you're saying, where it's like, let's start with like the sips and stroke. We're going to make this picture today. And it's like, okay, well, at least I know kind of a general sense of what I'm going to be doing, but I get to be creative, within that box. I know I've said box a lot. We can say square.
I
We could
like
say
it.
Some guidelines.
rectangle, guidelines. Yeah, whatever you prefer,
I
as
really
Bob Ross.
like the idea of helping kids learn how to use their imagination, but within these frameworks, because I think that, like Kayla was saying, like, too many options is anxiety inducing.
Mhm.
But also, if you don't help kids, and I think your products do, recognize that you don't have to go with the default choice either. Like, you don't
Yeah,
have to make a person live in the house. You can make a horse live in the house. Isn't that
sure.
cool? And then we get to get creative with that. And that's the kit that I bought for my son, is the
Yeah. Oh, the
Story
story stones.
Stones.
Yeah, yeah,
And
great.
we haven't started using it yet because we technically have not started our school year yet. But I'm really excited. I know he's gonna just really
That's nice.
enjoy. I know, homeschoolers. We get to decide.
That's nice.
We're after Labor Day
Labor Day. Yeah,
homeschoolers.
that's what it used to be, yeah, for Labor Day.
So I really like that this helps them learn to use their imaginations in really like intentional ways, instead of it being this loosey goosey, there's no structure to it. Now this is helping them understand how to be intentional about their creativity. It's
Well,
really cool.
yeah, and we take for granted that parents are oftentimes in the same situation as their kids. So if you're asking a parent to teach writing or creative writing to be more specific, they themselves might have no idea where to start. So
Yeah.
let's all learn through with this together. And I think like even in the homeschool environment, if the parent can just in a humbling process learn alongside the
Mm.
child. I think oftentimes we put this expectation on ourselves that we need to be the master or we got to really know because our child won't respect us if we don't, or the student won't respect us if we don't really know. But there's something so thing that's going to be exciting to see what comes out of that, and that goes back to math, that goes back to grammar, that goes back to science. I would love to figure out how the planets work. Like I can't remember it all. So let's sit down together and go through this process together and really get excited about the learning process. So I think there is like a humility that comes with it that's important in that teaching process that is vital. I got this fly.
I
It
haven't seen
is
it.
Can't see it.
he is just there's a story. A friend of mine in college, he told this really funny story. He had this professor. There was a fly that kept lighting on the desk, and the professor just kept swatting it away. And he just got angrier and angrier, and he got this rolled up piece of paper, and he just started smacking at it, smacking at it. And then when the dust settled, the fly was still sitting there, and he goes, "The fly stays." And he, because he was rewarding the tenacity of the
Yes,
fly,
the
and so he
grit. I
wanted
love it.
Funny.
yeah, so I guess this fly is a very tenacious fly.
He's an
The
extra
fly stays.
guest today on the
Yes.
podcast.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, anyways, I know we're all over the place here.
But I really appreciate what you were saying about learning alongside our kids and the humility that it takes, but that's an opportunity to grow in humility, which I feel like is one of the harder areas that we are called to grow in, but it's
Yeah,
important. And I think it's one of the cool opportunities that you have when you're teaching kids, whether it's homeschooling or you're running these kinds of programs where you get to go back and like redo the learning that you wished it had been this way for yourself when you were a kid. I was painting with we were doing watercolor. We've been doing watercolor every day because I'm a Charlotte Mason homeschooler and she talks a lot about being alongside your kids. So we've been doing watercolor every day and I don't think of myself as an artist and I find that I enjoy it because I'm doing it with my son
Mm.
and
yeah.
it's this
Mhm,
creative process we're sharing even if we're creating different things, but that
mm,
that creative process next to each other just makes
mm,
it makes it more enjoyable and like
yeah.
I actually like what I'm creating and I've never liked my own art before. I don't think anybody else would necessarily like it, but it's fun to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think everybody can creatively express in some. I think the a lot of oftentimes when we're younger, we're very self-conscious about ourselves, our being. We're very we have low self-esteem often, and we don't want to present something that we're not completely confident in. And so our art, what we make, can be very derivative. It can be very we're making it for somebody else. We're producing things that we think other people will like, whether that's music, whether that's a picture we draw, whether that's a movie we make, whatever it is. When you're younger, you're making it out of ego. You're making it out of for someone else's enjoyment because you want to earn their adoration. You want to earn their love and their respect. So we create for everybody else. But I think as you get older and you start to let go of a lot of that whatever that is, and you start to just care only put the focus on yourself. You put that focus on yourself and you can create with so much less care about what other people think. And that to me is where you really start to make stuff that's interesting and expressive and real and authentic. And I think but that comes with age, that comes with maturity, that comes with being healthy with yourself, being confident with yourself. um, and so I think the purest art is coming from that expression of, well, I don't care what anybody else. I'm not worried about what anybody else thinks. I just want to express what I'm feeling right now in whatever capacity that I want to. And I think the more you start to be able to do that, the more interesting your art becomes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's absolutely true, and I think I feel that in myself as well. I've been able to lean into my creative juices more as an adult because there's not that stigma that there was before for me, you know?
mhm.
But I
Yeah.
wanna talk about your programming, your
Mm,
classes that you do because
yeah.
one of the things that I love so much, even though we are going to take advantage of the in-person classes, we are putting this podcast out for all the homeschool families. We definitely
Yeah.
focus on the Southeast. But the great thing about your stuff is that you offer the in person, but you also offer an online option. So if you're
Hmm.
not close enough to come, you can still be able to participate in this program. So tell us a little bit more about your classes. I think you said you had some homeschool days coming up. So give us a little insight into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to be able to offer for those that live in the general area, we're in Marietta, Georgia. Within the general area, Metro Atlanta, wherever, if you're willing to make the drive, you can come in person and sit in our studio. I say it's a it's a cozy studio, but you're just surrounded by creativity and a life of creating stuff. Um, and it's a cool, intimate, creative experience. But we also wanted to be able to extend what we do to people that don't have that opportunity to come here. And so, what I'm trying to accomplish with the Zoom classes, and we did a lot of this with with our other company, Share Your Story with Stan. We would do live Zooms on the set. And so I want to be able to, we're going to bring a little bit of our production value to our classes, to my classes, to my workshop. So you really feel like you're in the midst of one of our shows or something, but it's live and you're there and you're present. And so there's the production aspect of it. Like we want you to feel like you're a part of something that has some value. But there's obviously I just want to be able to talk to kids that are all over the country or wherever it is. So offering Zoom was important to me for that. And then we're figuring out the age brackets right now. So right now we have our kids classes, which are 8 to 12, and that's still a pretty big range. I mean, you can get a pretty wide variety of learning levels, even in that gap. So, and then there's our teen classes, which are 13 to 18. Now I tell people like I'm gonna have 12-year-olds that take our teen classes, and I'm sure I'm gonna have 13-year-olds that are not on that level and they just want to take a more simplified version of it. So really what it comes down to is the complexity of it. Your child, they might have been writing for years now creatively, and they've read all the books and they've done everything they can. And so they're going to probably be a little bit beyond my character creator for the kids level. But with the teen level, we're really starting to get into internal versus external goals, weaknesses and strengths, antagonists, protagonists, really starting to understand the complexities of storytelling, the motivation, what motivates a character externally, internally. What are the obstacles, external obstacles versus internal obstacles? Really starting to dig into the nuances of not just characters, but people, like how we see the world. I think that's one of the interesting things about how I teach. I've always been very passionate about the human experience and going through a lot of stuff in my own life, a lot of trauma and processing that, learning how to process that in a healthy way, letting go of my own weaknesses, my own codependencies, my own insecurities, whatever you want, and really examining how humans think and how we process and how we motivate ourselves, and then applying that to the storytelling creation. There's that fly again. I don't have anything for you, buddy. Really leaning in, really trying to learn.
He has something to say.
Well, it might be a woman. I don't know. Anyway, so that's what fascinates a lot to me, a lot about the writing process, the creative writing process. And I think it really translates to when I teach. And I actually originally made a version of my character creator that was for counselors to use in a trauma process with kids, trying to get them to open up, being able to view themselves through a third party lens when they create a character and they give that character personality traits, when they create a safe space for that character, that world they're making for that character and the experiences. Oftentimes kids, they will, when they choose their character traits, they're going to choose things either A, that describe themselves, or B, that they view idealistically as something they aspire to be. And a counselor, somebody who's in tune with that child or with emotions and how to understand and process emotions, they'll be able to take a lot out of that creative process. So I would say even to parents that are trying to understand your child a little bit better, I think taking them rather than sitting them down and being very direct and saying, how do you feel about yourself? How are things going? How's whatever, if they go to school, if they go to co-op, if they go to a club or a sport, is like, are you happy with it? Well, kids will shut down. They don't like to, a lot of times don't like to answer those questions, especially ones that are experiencing difficulty. And so when you sit down and you say, okay, we're going to make a character together and let's go through this process together. Let's figure out our character's personality. What kind of character should we make? We can make a kid or we can do an animal of some sort. And then let's talk about those characters' strengths. What are they really good at? Or do they and then what do they struggle with? They struggle with anxiety? Are they nervous? Do they get shy? And then what do they really want? Do they want to make a friend? Are they looking for acceptance? And I think when a child can project onto something else other than themselves, it allows them to not feel so self-conscious about that process. And so when kids go through this process with me, I think they intuit that a lot. When they go through it, they're learning some of these life skills without even knowing it. So when I say we're going to give our character a goal and that they're going to have obstacles and problems that get in the way of them achieving their goal. And they're going to have to figure that out. They're going to have to figure out how to problem solve in order to reach this thing, this goal that they've set for themselves. And that push and that pull is what makes the story interesting. And that's what makes our lives interesting too, right? It's that push and that pull, I'm failing. Oh, I'm succeeding. I'm failing. This is a struggle for me. I'm having to work really hard. This is the montage moment in my life. And let's see, will I reach my goal or won't I? I won't I or won't I? That's where the tension is. That's what makes it interesting. And I think when a child can learn that their life is like that, then I think they can start to view things from a vantage point that isn't so overwhelming. That isn't
Mm.
so they can start to say, well, this is possible. This is just the down part of the story. I've got to buckle down and figure out how I'm going to solve this problem. If I want to make a friend, if I'm lonely and I know that my goal is to make a friend, well, what can I do? What can my character do to accomplish that goal? Do they need to put themselves out there more? Do they need to join a club? Do they need to practice how they talk to others? Do they need to learn to listen better? Is this going to work for my character? Are they going to run into some obstacles along the way? And then how are they going to overcome that? And so they're just learning how to tell a story, and then they're learning that their life is also a story and that they're the main character in that story.
That's awesome. So I I noticed it seems like you've got these classes built for the build your character, and then you go into build the world and then build the story. Those 3 sessions seem to stretch through this, we'll call it semester.
Yeah.
So come after, because I'm not exactly sure when this is gonna come out. So after Christmas, will you
Yeah.
start
Mhm.
it up again from the beginning, or will you go into
Yeah.
something new?
No, 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 we'll start it. I'll keep going. We'll keep doing them, because this is a building process. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna have full classes right now. Like, I'm
Y
gonna have
yeah, they're
we're
filling
just
up.
starting these. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll still have space, but as word gets out there, and it's starting to get out there, I anticipate that by the next semester, we are gonna start to really fill up. But
Yeah.
yes, I'm gonna do those again, but I might add stuff. If I've got kids that went through this process with me, and they're really enthusiastic about the creative process, well, I can see ways that I can take it to the next step for them and provide them an opportunity to go further, go deeper
Yeah.
in what they're doing. So I think there's always going to be that ability to add to what they're doing, but I can't see a scenario where we're not always offering. These are the fundamentals. These are I'm always going to offer these. In some capacity or form. I do see a scenario where as we start to what I wanna do, I'll tell you what I wanna do, and we had talked about this. So we sell our stuff in bookstores, a lot of small independent bookstores, and we love small businesses. We love trying to help them figure out how to build community in their spaces and make a living and thrive. So I want to start training some of them. I taught a lot of these classes at bookstores over the summer, and it was a great way to bring people into the store. There was a lot of synergy between what we were doing and idea of books and selling books. And so I want to train people how to do it themselves so they can, and I think it's extreme the way that the books are designed, they're easy to follow, and so, I mean, they're designed so parents can do them with kids, so there's no reason why a bookstore owner or somebody couldn't do it with a small group of kids. So I wanna start training people to do it, on their own and in other capacities, because I will only ever be able to teach so many kids. I mean, I
Mhm.
can't just, there's only so much I can do, but there's other great people out there that are passionate about it that I can't see a reason why they can't do it too. Um, so I guess all that to say is the spaces will always be limited, of what I'm able to do.
And if people are curious about where they can find it in a store. That's listed on your website, and we'll be linking to that
Yeah.
in the show notes, so that you can find out which of these stores that Matthew's talking about are there, and you can see all the classes. And I'm going to just mention, because I know we're talking about homeschooling our kids, but we're also talking about growing ourselves. You also offer these workshops for adults.
Yeah, and I haven't done one yet for adults. I'm getting ready to. I figure if I can teach some 12-year-olds or something, I can teach some pig-headed adults or whatever. So
And I'm really curious, Matthew, about the field trips. Is that something that
yeah.
like a homeschool
Oh, yeah.
group
Yeah, we are.
could?
We are doing some. We're doing some homeschool groups. Yeah, we've got some folks come. Yeah, so our field trip, we did this last year. We did an open house and it was a lot of fun. And it's just an hour-long experience where it's kind of a hands-on deal. I equate it to like if you go to like a nature center and they start getting the snakes out and then the pet and the lizards. It's like I had a parent go, "How hands-on is it?" And I said, "Well, it's like the lizard experience. Like, the kids will occasionally get up and get to hold some random reptile." So that's kind of, I mean, I'm joking, but that's kind of the truth of it. It's like, so we're going to take kids to that process of how we make one of our episodes, one of our shows, from taking a script to breaking it down to building props for that episode to how we film it to how we do the editing, how we do the puppet voices. It's a lot of fun. We had a blast the first time we did it. And I think it's a great opportunity just to get kids into a creative environment,
Yeah.
especially like in the day and age now where with AI, I mean, I'm in the film industry. So we're at a turning point. Okay, we're at an extraordinary time, creativity and there's obviously some positives in here. I'm not going to say it's all negatives, but it's definitely an existential crisis for a lot of creative people. And I think what makes what we're doing, especially read, write, create. I tell people it's what's old is new. It's not saying that the technology is bad. I don't believe that. I use technology in my own life. But what it's saying is that it's also now more important than ever to learn how to do this um, in a human way, in a way that uses our hands, in a way that brings it back to the basics. It also makes the experience that much more unique. You're going to be hard pressed to find anything like what we're doing, where we're going to bring you in here on our set, everything you can touch. It's not a green screen, it's not digital. We build everything ourselves because we believe it's not because we love to do that. It's fun to make things. And I think instilling that passion in kids and saying, hey, you know, you can do this. This is within reach. And I think there's a satisfaction and a sense of accomplishment in building stuff with our hands and using our minds and writing with our hands and holding that thing that we're making and then seeing it before us and then being able to invite other people into that process and saying, hey, look at this, isn't this cool? You can come see it as well. I think that's an inspirational process for kids, whether they end up wanting to be filmmakers or not. I think inviting them into a hands-on creative process in any way, shape, or form is inspirational, whether they want to go write music, whether they want to go build something, or they want to be a carpenter, whether they want to go work on cars, whatever it is, they want to go make something. I think when you walk in and you see people doing it, then that's a cool experience, and that's our goal. So the field trip is an hour long. It's $15 a student right now, and our capacity in our studio is about 40 kids, give or 40 people, give or take. So they're not huge. It's not a huge crowded area, and so you get a lot of attention through that process. It's going to be fun and unique and interesting. So we've got one homeschool group that's looking at coming in and doing. They're going to do a character creator for the morning, and then we're going to do just the experience after they're done with the character creator. So there's opportunities for people to participate in any capacity that they want to participate in. So
So that's really cool. My follow-up question was going to be, what is your capacity? 'Cause the wheels in my brain
yeah.
are going for our
Yeah,
community up here.
yeah. I mean, it's not, it's a co-op size. It's. I think it's enough. We got enough space to fit people in somewhat comfortably. That's the goal, is just to be able to bring small groups um, and give them kind of a unique, fun experience, something different.
Yeah.
Something different.
Well, I love what you're doing for not only the homeschool community, because, selfishly, we are grateful, but I also just love what you're doing for the community, period. I grew up, Marietta is my hometown. That's where I grew up. And so I just love that is now just this beautiful creative space for the community. And I'm so jazzed. I mean, Kat and I stumbled upon your booth by happenstance at the Southeast Homeschool Expo. And I think that we had both pretty staunchly said we were done shopping. We are
Done buying. I'm not spending another dollar in this expo.
and it took all of maybe like a minute and a half to change
Yeah.
our minds.
Yeah. Well, no, I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, that's the goal, is just to inspire
Awesome.
people.
I love that.
I want to read one thing I got this today. A parent emailed me. They had seen one of they bought one of our kits at a bookstore in Marietta Square at the Reading Attic, which is located in Marietta Square. And
Yeah.
I'll try to see if I could paraphrase this.
You don't have to paraphrase it if you don't want to, because we always end our episodes by asking our guests for a homeschooling win. And so we were going to ask you just like a learning win. What's a win for you? And I kind of feel like this might be a win.
Well, yeah. The funny thing is this. So this, I'll just read it and then we can laugh about what's
Okay.
funny in a second. Okay. So it says that the headline was praise and private field trip. It's from a woman named Brandy. And she says, "Hello, my son spotted your Read, Write, Create Storytellers bundle at a store in Marietta Square and just had to have it. He has carried it around for weeks, journaling every day. He has loved it so much that the strap broke as he wears it on his person every day. But what a great thing you've created. I went online looking for a replacement strap and found your website. I was floored to find out that you're twins. My son is an identical twin as well, Landon and Nolan. Nolan enjoys the writing process, and Landon enjoys drawing pictures. I wanted to tell you personally how much my son has loved his Read, Write, Create stuff and how it has inspired him to write every day and take his writing with him wherever he goes." And then she goes on to ask about a field trip for her class. She wanted to bring a class to do the field trip, a 4th grade class. So just, I think, yeah. And I think, I laughed about the strap. I was like, God,
Yes.
why the strap break? All I'm thinking is like, why'd that strap break?
It's probably not meant for daily use, though, to be fair.
Going
This is not
everywhere.
that. I'll tell you this, like when it meant a lot to us. I'll be honest with you, because the whole point of this particular stuff, just the bags and the, you can't say anything, but the bags, the notebooks, everything we make, is we want it to be inspiring. We want it to be, that's exactly what we want it to be used for. We want you to just enjoy it so much that you want to take it with you, that you want to make stuff, that you want to get your pencils out, your pen, and you want to draw, and you want to take notes, and you want to just write and create stuff. And for me and my brother Jared, that is the exact reason we're doing what we're doing. Because as kids, that's what we wanted. We wanted to just be inspired. We wanted to have cool, creative stuff that we can make our own stuff with, draw pictures, and just create. So that meant a lot to us.
And how sweet that it's twin brothers and now they're creating together and you
Yeah.
guys are still creating together all these just
Right.
that whole thing is so sweet. And it is an
Yeah.
absolute win.
Yeah. No, I appreciate
For
that.
sure. So if people want to find you guys, tell us where your website is, where they can find you on social media. Where
Yeah.
are you?
So the website is readwritecreate.org. And then we're on Instagram at RWC_HQ. If you type in Read, Write, Create, it'll come up. We're on TikTok, Facebook. If you type Read, Write, Create, everywhere it'll come up. And we try to share often. And,
Yeah.
and we want people, if they use our stuff, I'd love to see you post and tag us and tell your story. Show us how your kids are being creative with it and making their own stuff.
That's
So-
awesome. Well, Kat, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me at Recreating Camp. And how about you, Kayla?
You can find me at Scratch Made Simple on all the things, and you can find us at Homeschooling Down South. If you know somebody that we should talk to or you have some programming that we should check out, email us at hello@homeschoolingdownsouth.com. Matthew, thank you so much for chatting with us today. This was so fun, and I think I'm even more excited than I was before about my daughter getting to dive into all the classes. So we just want to say thank you so much for your time. And if you have enjoyed today's episode, we would love for you to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening.
Thanks, y'all. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
All this month, we're celebrating Sarah Ernst, creator of Wild Pickle Press and friend of the podcast. Sarah's books and music seek to empower kids. Visit Sarah's world of story and song at wildpicklepress.com, where you'll find uplifting, imaginative, and wonder-filled content for the whole family. Sarah says music is sticky, so make sure what sticks is good, and we're excited and thankful for Sarah's music to stick right here on the podcast as our theme song. We hope you enjoy it as much as we do.